Welcome to our new GrowStrong program, empowering grape growers in South Australia. I'm Lisa Bennier, the Chief Executive Officer of the Wine Grape Council of South Australia. We've recently received some funding through the Future Drought Fund to deliver a program out to 3 pilot regions, Langhorne Creek, the Riverland and Limestone Coast. These pilot regions will have an opportunity for 20 growers in each region to take on this program, which will be with project partners, the University of Adelaide, Australian Wine Research Institute, Rural Business Support and the FABS Mentors. This program is supported by the Wine Grape Council of South Australia through funding from the Australian Government's Future Drought Fund and the Government of South Australia. I'm about to have a chat with our delivery partners now. Hi Darren, welcome to the chat. Would you like to tell us a little bit about who you are and how you fit in?
So I'm Darren Keenan, I'm the Programs Manager of Rural Business Support, and we work across South Australia in NT, and we deliver a multitude of programs to rural, regional and remote primary producers and small business operators.
And those programs are, what does Rural Business Support do? What are the programs or examples of?
So the program I'm probably most known for is the Rural Financial Counselling Service. We've been doing that since 2006, where we work with primary producers, so that can be on the land, but also fishers, foresters, any form of primary production, and of course grape growers, who we've always worked with. And we work with them when they have financial hardship or imminent risk of financial hardship, and work with them to try and find solutions or ways that they can be proactive in working in their situation. Sometimes it's because of a natural disaster as well. Drought, fire, flood, as we're currently working on, up and down the river.
There's always something, isn't there?
Absolutely. We also do small business financial counselling. So we're currently doing that up and down the river at the moment, working with small business owners who have been affected by the effects of the flood. We've previously done that for bushfires, and of course COVID was a big one as well. The other program we have in our stable is a little bit different to those, and that is we work with Department of Energy and Mining and deliver the Landowner Information Service. So that's a service for landowners who are having exploration or mining activity across their land, and we provide an impartial service. So we have the information about the processes. We're not pro or anti either. We sit on the fence, absolutely, no matter how wobbly that fence gets. And it's to give good, clear information so that everybody understands their rights, obligations, and hopefully helps them to make good decisions. In the past, it was always reach for the phone and for a lawyer or to start to chain the gate up, but it's actually more complicated than that for both parties. So forgive that. I
haven't heard of any of that really happening on vineyards at this point. It may have. I haven't heard too much though in that space, I must say.
I can't think of an exact example apart from a very high profile one up in the Adelaide Hills.
Oh, yes.
But apart from that, it's not as common. It depends what people are looking for and when they're looking for it, because certain things went a bit quieter during COVID because the explorers couldn't get out there and scratch around as much. And interestingly, it was something like quarrying that actually expanded during COVID because they could do it on their own properties.
Of course. So so you mentioned rural financial counselling.
Yes.
So that in the past you said, if you're in financial difficulty, has that slightly changed in the last few years, that it's more of a proactive program as well now?
So the actual rural financial counselling program hasn't changed greatly, but we do run proactive programs off of that. And that is where we can hopefully get people ahead of the curve. We talk about how many steps before the bad spot hits, and we'd like people to come earlier rather than later. So that's the proactive component of it. But of course, asking for help is a difficult thing for people at the best of times. So we need to make them feel comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
And that's why we talk about our confidential service. It is completely confidential. We don't even tell the neighbour, so to speak, so that we can work with people and have those conversations.
Yeah. And so what underpins rural business support? How are you financed? So
majority of our funding comes from government funding, which can be direct for the Rural Financial Counselling Service. That comes from Department of Agricultural, Fisheries and Forestry. I think I've got that wrong way around.
It doesn't matter.
But we also funded by state government. PERSA also contribute to that, and the NT governments as well. And then we also have Department of Industry, Innovation and Science fund our small business programs, and of course Department of Energy and Mining.
Wow, okay.
But the other component we have is we do have industry funding for the proactive program. So when we've worked with other industry sectors, they identify a need and they will source funding, and sometimes they get that from the government or sometimes they get it from within their own field.
What industry? What other industries in South Australia have you worked with? Just as
pretty much all the primary production ones.
Yeah.
Pork, dairy, grains, livestock.
Yep.
We've done a proactive program along the way with all of them under the, I guess, the guise of primary production. But we've also come through SAFECOM with funding around emergency and disaster management.
Yeah. And horticulture. Let's not forget them.
And going to come back to that with the future drought funding.
Yes.
We've done the horticulture last year and now again this year.
Yes.
And of course, Wine Grape Council SA this year.
So you're familiar, I guess is the point with agriculture really, aren't you? You're very familiar with agriculture, with farms and people and regions and that sort of thing.
There's not much we haven't seen. And probably the reason why we see it is because our people are spread across SA and NT.
Yeah.
They live in the regions they work in. So we don't operate from an Adelaide base. We have people based in our regional offices, and they are people in the community. Some of them have been there for a very long time. Some of them are even generational themselves. So some of our staff are those farmers.
And I'd be guessing a lot of them come with different skill sets as well, coming from different areas of business and finance and farming and all of those different facets.
Absolutely. That's actually the huge benefit. Our people are not, this is not their first job. Many of them, they've had life experience, but they've also had professional experience. So we have people with banking backgrounds, but I always weigh that, say we also have farming backgrounds as well at the same time. So they understand the content matter, but we've had agronomists, we've had other professionals such as consultants, management.
Right.
We've even got a psychologist, teacher.
Probably handy.
Around. So that mix of skills actually is what is the power of RBS, because we all work together to share that as far as how do we best support our clients in that, and we build each other's capacity up, and then we can go and work with the farmers or growers one-on-one.
Yep, perfect. So part of our program, obviously through the Future Drought Fund, is the GrowStrong program that we're about to roll out with the university, AWRI, FABS, and your good selves.
Yes,
so
looking forward to that.
Part of the chats that we're having today is to share with, like, what's the program going to look like from your point of view, your contribution to it. Obviously, don't want you to don't need to talk about what the uni's doing. But what is rural business support? What will it look like for the growers that sign up for this program? What can they expect to get out of their interactions with rural business support?
Yep, thank you. So we're going to play to our strengths in this, and our strength is what we refer to as the kitchen table discussions. So based on the work that the Adelaide Uni are going to do with the participants, where they're going to be talking about the financials, we're going to pick up from that space. And what we do is we meet with the participants at their kitchen table, literally, and we find that is a good place, because that's where many of them do their business decision making or have their conversation. But it's their world. We do it in with them where they're comfortable, and we have those confidential conversations. So we'll pick up around the financials and find out what their financial position is. Most people don't want to go running around town with that, so we have that conversation, and we work through what's called a statement of position to just see where it realistically is, and that then helps us to understand firstly what is possible, but also counter what isn't possible, and then we look at what their goals are. So once we've worked through the financials, we then do their personal and their professional goals, and depending on where they are in their stage of life and also their farming or growing enterprise is at, what they're looking at. So are they new into it and they're still establishing and they've got lots of infrastructure investment, or are they at the back end and they're looking for succession, and also what that means from scalability as well. And also exit, I assume, if that comes up, some might want to exit. So we always talk about exit as part of succession. And even for a person in their first year, personally, I would always ask them what their exit strategy is, because they should build that into whatever they do. Otherwise they get stuck. And it gets harder and you get more stuck, if that's possible, when you enter areas where financial hardship or things don't go your way, such as markets going the wrong way for you at the wrong time. So having those strategies in place helps people to see a clear pathway through, even when the waters get a little bit murky. So the first meeting, potentially farm table, cup of coffee, lots of questions and discussion, and probably a few not sure of the answers, or a bit of that, but just a bit of a laying the foundation. Laying the foundation, having a look at the work that come out of the Adelaide University sessions with the financials, getting an understanding of what the participants' understanding of their financials is as well. And to see how they believe they're running versus
Yep.
what is on paper.
Yep.
Because sometimes the gut feel is quite reliable as well as what is on paper, and sometimes they're
Yeah.
not quite tuned. So we get that balance and understand what the financial possibilities are.
Yeah.
Then we go into the second meeting, which is where we set the goals, and because we've got the financial information, we can understand is
Yeah,
it realistic, or is it aspirational, or
Yep.
is it just totally
Somewhere in
unrealistic?
between. Yeah.
And then we can start to put some steps into place. Well, if you want to do it, if this is your goal, this is what you need to do in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years sort of
Yep.
thing, so that they start to build an idea of what their journey looks like.
Yep.
And the final session of the 3 in this program is to actually have an action plan that relates to their business plan,
Yep.
but it is basically on a page so that they've got, take all the other noise away. Here's the 3 or 5 things that I aim to achieve in the next 1, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
That gets me closer to what it is that I'm working towards.
So you just brushed over that, but I think we'll just go back quickly because I think that's one of the barriers here as well, is that people think they have to write this, encyclopedia of a business plan, which, and gets thrown in a drawer and nothing ever happens. And you just quickly said plan on a page, but you said it so quickly that people might have missed it. So it can be as simple as a plan on a page.
I love one-page business plans.
Yeah.
Full stop. So I would aim to bring people in, and sometimes I let it be double-sided. But it's about having absolute clarity. And if you can't consume it all in one hit, and it's 20, 30, 40 pages, no one understands all that. So therefore they'll only pick a little bit, which means they won't work on the whole plan. So we need people to focus on the whole plan because it's a moving feast.
Yeah.
And if people can have 3 to 5 goals, and normally 1, maybe 2 a year at the most, they can focus on that, and they know that every decision they make leads them closer to that because that's what they've decided they wanted. They will be more successful, and across the years, it's showing that to us.
Yeah. Can you give me an example with another group that you've worked with? Like, what are some common goals people aim for that might be, not sure which way to go, and what are some basic common ones that are popular maybe? I don't know if that's the right terminology.
No. It's interesting around goals because they are all very personal, but there's always one around finances. Yeah. And quite often it is that people don't understand it, so they bury their head in the sand. So the goal quite often is that they will actually go and spend some time quarterly with their accountant and their banker, and to actually get a better grasp of what it is and where they're at, and start to do their own reporting so that they're monitoring it, not responding to it.
Right, that's a great one.
Because if they're in front of it, they're monitoring it, they know what's likely to happen, they can make decisions based on that. But if they wait for 12 months in tax time, it's already happened, it's gone past it, and they can't catch that back.
No, right.
So something as simple as that is a very powerful goal. And if we could achieve nothing else, that people start doing some quarterly monitoring and reporting, that would be a great outcome.
Right. And that builds a relationship as well, doesn't it, with the banker and the accountant, which can only be a good thing.
Critical people in their life.
Yeah.
One gives money to them, and one helps them to keep it in their wallet when they make it. So it's very important that they have strong relationships with all their advisors.
Yeah.
And part of our mojo of delivering the services is we always like to have people with their advisors around them. So we make referrals out to accountants, to taxation department if there's an issue there, but also make sure that they have the right technical people, the agronomists or otherwise viticulturalists, sitting around them, and that it is normal business to have advisors around them. So we actually talk to them about a large company and a board table.
Yeah.
They have all those advisors there, so why would a grower or a farmer not?
Yeah, it's your personal board, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I like that term. Someone raised that to me not that long ago, having a personal board.
I like
people
that
you put around it yourself. Yeah, that's really good. And so then on the second day when you start talking about the plan, I assume it's maybe a couple of family around that table, are they? Or like
the people who are the decision makers or have direct influence are the ones we would ask them to bring to the room. So if it is I'll call it a mum and dad, a little bit of stereotyping here. If it is a mum and dad operation, have both of them at the table so they both understand, because they both need to agree and commit to the goal. If it is generational, that's even more important, because one generation, whether it be the older or the younger, may have one set of ideas and the other will have something else. And if they're opposed, all they're going to do is tread water. They're not going to go forward. So the key people in the room who need to know what's going on, but also would like to actually influence the plan, because then they'll believe in it, then they'll commit to it, and then it's more likely to happen.
And you can bring it back, can't you, if it's generational? You can always come back, hang on, we agreed to this.
Well, that's the beauty of a one-page plan.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of places to hide in it. If
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
agreed on 3 to 5 points and it's sitting on the fridge every day and everyone goes, no, this is what we agreed on, I really have seen in the past that people tend to stick to it more.
And I'm guessing succession comes out a lot in these conversations.
We actually bring it out.
Yeah.
It's important. You have to understand succession. Doesn't matter what agricultural enterprise, the old-fashioned way of I'll split it amongst the kids. Many of those properties are now being split so far they actually can't be split any further. There's nothing left. So succession is an important topic because it's not a matter of just splitting anymore. So we bring it out and we try to understand what that looks like. And it could be as simple as conditioning all the parties to what the decision is that whoever currently controls it has made. Or it could be these are the financial and legal things we have to set up in place so that when we get there, the handover happens. Because we see it in some cases where the way the enterprise is structured, the person who wants to leave, quite often due to age or health, can't because of the way it's set up, or they're not able to go and receive the benefits and the services that they need because of the way they're structured.
Because farmers are quite often asset rich, aren't they?
They can be asset rich and absolutely cash poor.
Yes, very common.
And when they go and seek services, it says, no, you can afford to pay this yourself. And
because you've got all that land. Yeah, but you can't. So how long does this process, do you envisage this process generally will take with this program?
So each of the sessions are about 2.5 hours. The first one probably goes to 3 after you have that cup of tea to make sure that we're all able to communicate.
And the site inspection. Surely you've got to walk around the farm a bit.
Dusty boots are critical.
Yeah, got to walk and talk.
Absolutely. And that's part of our people's understanding. They like to understand what your circumstances are because everyone is different and everyone has a different way of running their enterprise.
Yeah.
We normally space them apart. We make them comfortably apart. So sometimes if someone's got a reasonably good set of ideas in their mind and they're reasonably well structured, we probably do them 2 weeks apart. Yeah. But it's not uncommon for them to be a month apart so that people can go and have other conversations with family members, seek some extra advice. It might be to actually get more numbers from the accountant because we realise we're missing something.
Yeah. Or even think on something, maybe. Sometimes
and
you
I was
just need to
contemplation.
just think on it. Yeah.
Contemplation, sitting there.
Big decisions.
Having a beer, a glass of wine or a coffee and just thinking through, now what does this actually really mean for me? Yeah. Particularly around succession because these are really big life-changing decisions.
Yeah,
really
they are. And for some reason, dying isn't very sexy.
No, it's a little bit final, isn't it?
It seems not. Someone hasn't got the sales pitch right on that yet.
No.
But it is, and I imagine there'd be a lot of discussion with generational and a lot of thinking because, like you said, there's so many facets to it. It's not easy. It's never been easy, has it?
No.
And it's getting harder.
And with succession, that is a whole nother process. It's getting to the realisation that succession is something that either we want to do or need to do and how we think we'll go about that. So that may then be a referral to a professional facilitator for that, depending on the family circumstances. Yeah. If there's only one other person and it's the logical, it's actually really easy, you can write that in. But if it's 4 or 5 children and partners and grandchildren, that actually takes a lot of work, not just to get everyone to agree to it, but to get the legal structures so that you're optimising your financial position in that as well. Otherwise, it can be very expensive and actually nothing's changed apart from a few names on bits of paper. And
the reality, I think, Matt, that I often hear people say, oh, yeah, the kids can go back to the farm if they want to. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's a promise you probably can't keep. Well, and it happens, or you hear the other one where they can go off, they have to leave for a while and get a trade, and then they can come back. But there's still maybe that possibility isn't there. So
we see that all the time where it seems to be a trend at the moment to send the kids away to university and get that other trade.
Yeah, get a trade.
With the expectation that they'll come back. That has its own foibles in that as well. But even someone who stays on the farm, we find instances where they never actually really wanted to stay. They just felt compelled because they were the eldest or they were the likely person. And, secretly they've been harbouring that the minute I find the gate to leave, I will take that as well. And when you have these succession discussions, sometimes that pops out as well.
Wow,
and so we have to be open to what could be said or not said.
Right. Is that something, the conversation your guys have at the start? I shouldn't say guys too. I was just just assumed they're all men, but they're not. So when they sit down, they have that. Is that a conversation that happens up front too? That these conversations might go somewhere you don't really want them to go. Or
we open it so that it can go where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And we don't ever know where it's going to go. So we ask what they have thought about it.
Yeah.
To see what each individual's, and sometimes it's better to have a little bit of 101. We still try to keep everybody in the room, but what are you thinking? What are you thinking? And see what the commonality is in that thinking.
Yeah.
But sometimes someone in the room will say, well, now that someone's actually asked, and then you go, okay, hang on.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And it gets very interesting from our role because we're facilitating. So and we're not emotionally connected, but then it can take a life of its own. So that's when possibly we would be looking to refer it to someone professionally. And at times we would then advise the individuals to seek their own advisors. Yeah. Because it can have some implications on them.
Yeah, right.
Particularly if somebody is being gifted a farm that actually changes their whole financial situation. It might be positive, but might suddenly change their taxation or their ability to do whatever else that they were trying to do. So it can be complicated.
Big conversations, really, but at a farm table, which is in a comfort zone, which has got to be a good thing.
It's far more likely to happen there than it is a cold, sterile office where it's nobody's home ground.
Yeah.
And knowing that we're confidential, so we're not telling anybody post the meeting, knowing that it's on home ground for people, so they're comfortable, they know the space, and that we're the visitor, and if anyone's leaving, it's us, not them.
Yes.
It tends to empower the conversation a lot more, and people don't have to then decide to make time in their day for it because they're probably going to come past for a cup of tea at morning tea or lunch. So if we can tie into that as well,
you just meet them there.
It's just natural for that conversation to happen.
And I probably should reiterate what you just said about being confidential. So part of our program is that we certainly don't get anything back from you on these conversations. It is got nothing to do with us. Like, it is a full confidential. You're not going to be saying, oh, such and such, this participant said this. This is...
No, absolutely not. And we wouldn't have agreed to the program. So even where we have to do reporting in our other programs, we have a unique identifier that is generated that has no name ever attached. So we'll never tell in any of our programs who our clients are.
No, great. So, I think it's important to get that out because, people don't want to talk about their financials, and it goes both ways. You might not be in financial difficulty if you're actually doing quite well. You quite often don't want to talk about it either.
Occasionally we trip over, very occasionally we trip over that too, where somebody suggests that somebody's in financial hardship or disarray, and you go in and they're doing very well, but it doesn't look like that on the surface. So we also know not to judge.
No, you don't.
So there's no judgment in this. We are just simply there to help.
Yep. So we get to day 2 that you said, like maybe 2 weeks later, up to a month later. And so that's like thinking about what do you actually want to, what's the plan? What do you want to, where's your goals?
Yeah, we set the goals so that helps to build the plan.
Yep.
Hopefully the goals are realistic based on what we've uncovered in the financials. Right. We want to make sure when we're helping people to set their personal and their enterprise goals that they're realistic.
Yeah.
Because if we set goals that they can't attain, they will fail on the first goal and then they'll give it up.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can build a plan that has some achievable outcomes, and nothing wrong with having a reach outcome as well, but achievable in the first place, everybody's more likely to buy into the plan, follow it through, and they'll get the result. And they'll be a step ahead of where they would be if they didn't have a plan.
And then you go take a bigger step after.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And each step will build confidence too, Lisa.
Of course.
So they go, okay, this planning is a good thing, because some people don't plan formally. It's in their head. And we do find most of the participants' clients will have a good plan in their head. It's just not on paper. Yeah. And others can't follow it because they can't get to the Fed. Whereas we do promote, they stick it on the fridge door, especially in a farm or somewhere like that where people are coming and going, because everyone sees it every day.
Yes,
and it becomes normal.
Yep, it's your pass or whatever. And then, so what's the gap between sort of second and last? Do you
Again, we work depending on where the participants are at.
Yep.
Both are they busy? Are they going okay in themselves?
Yep.
And also what conversations have they needed to have?
Yep.
As well. So if we walk in and everyone's in agreement, you could go easily 2 weeks apart, no problems at all. But if there's some really hard conversations that need to be had, or the financials reveal something that is less than what people were expecting, sometimes that can slow that process right down. Or they have to now realign all of the goals they had in their head to a different level.
Right.
And that sometimes you've got to process that.
So at that second meeting, I guess there's a chance that the goals completely can change. Like they might be thinking this is what's going to happen, and then they go, actually, this is just not going to work.
It's not going to work. It's unrealistic.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is not uncommon.
Yep.
But that's the process of us supporting the participants with the conversation and the approach we take, so that they understand that every goal is a good goal and they don't all have to be those reach goals. What is achievable and what's realistic.
So you're just helping, you're the helping hand, aren't you? You're not telling them what to do. You're just the helping hand, directing, steering the ship a little bit.
Absolutely.
You're the rudder.
We're not going to come and tell them what to do. No, we're not their advisor. We are there to bring out the conversation and to find out what they do know and what they would like to know. And if we can help them to know that, we will. But if not, we'll work out together who the best person is to help them with that. And
at the end, they're going to get a plan that's something that you guys do, is it? The plan, like design it up or whatever, and they get it, a nice printed version of it?
There will be a printed version, but we're also going to entice them with a template that they can actually rewrite this. As they tick something off, they can add another one to the bottom. So
that's a great resource.
They can keep their template and keep using it.
Yeah.
And we can give it to them in a digital format too if they want to type it up.
That's fantastic. Yeah, actually, that's a great idea.
But there's nothing more powerful than ticking something off that list on their fridge.
Yeah.
And then going, you know what, we actually want to take another step forward. Yeah. We're going to add something to the bottom.
Maybe when they're having those quarterly meetings with their accountant and their banker, they could pull out their plan. And
they really should be taking that plan, because a lot of the work we do in the financial counselling space is around the banker doesn't understand the plan of the farmer or the grower.
No.
And they send them away to get these business plans, and then they get those big 20 and 30 page documents that no one ever reads, maybe apart from the banker. Yeah. Whereas if they can take the plan and page, the banker or financer can go, I understand what you're trying to do now. Yeah. Now here's how I can help you better.
Yeah, and that's a positive, real positive, isn't it? I come from banking background too. So there's an assumption sometimes, I think, from growers that the bank just knows what you're doing, but they don't. And the more you can give the banker, the better the relationship's going to be, and the more chance you've got of getting things to go your way a bit more.
Absolutely. And that's that partnership or relationships that we talk about through this process as well. Keeping their advisors, keeping the relationship sound, and utilising it as well. It's not something you do when you have to. It's something you do because it's actually going to help you to advance further forward.
Excellent. So you guys are going to be at a couple of the masterclasses, probably the finance ones, we think. You'll be there so that attendees can meet Fabs, yourselves, myself, at the first one, I think, the uni one, and we're going to go from there. Is there anything else you want to tell us about RBS or your part of the program?
You articulated that well. We are going to be there, and that's how we do things, because we like to just be seen around these communities because we belong in them anyway.
Yes.
We welcome people to come and say g'day to us even before it's our part of the program. Yep. And probably the last part is, if we do find someone who is in financial hardship, post the work we're doing in this program, they can be referred into our rural financial counselling service, and we can continue to work with them. So we don't leave anybody hanging. If we find something where we can refer to an appropriate assistance, we will do that as part of this.
That's fantastic. Really good. Looking forward to it, Darren. Looking forward to having you on board.
This is a great concept with the 4 parts as well.
Yeah, it's a great program. Thanks for coming in.
All right, thank you, Lisa.